Hey there, and welcome back to Discover What You Were Born to Do. We are in week 9, and I am so glad you are here. This week, we begin our last 4-week section. This is where we bring everything together and you start making decisions. One of the most important things that this work has given me is an organized understanding of how to direct and influence my future, as well as the tools I need to methodically decide what I want and how to take action to make it happen. Having this information doesn't mean I never get lost or confused, but now I know how to get back to home base. It also helped me dispel the myth that there was some secret formula or magic button that everybody knew but me. It helped me practically understand the idea that life is a journey and gave me the tools I needed to take with me on that journey. My goal is for you to have this same sense of understanding and confidence as you make your career decisions. I want you to have a map and compass so that whenever you feel overwhelmed or lost, you know that you can reliably get yourself back into alignment with who you really are and what you want most. As we get started today, let's take a look at our roadmap and review what we've done so far and see where we're going. Remember, to find the work that matters to you, you need to know 3 things. The first is who you are. That's what we covered in the first 4 weeks. The second is how to make decisions that are aligned with who you are. This is what we covered in the last 4 weeks. And the third is what you want. That's the section we're heading into now. And here's where we are on the roadmap. This week, we'll walk through a decision-making framework that is designed to help you choose a career path. Next week, we'll walk through troubleshooting tips to help you avoid common problems. In week 11, we'll talk about how to commit to your plan, even if your plan isn't perfect right now and it needs adjustment in the future. And in our final week, we'll talk about how to make the career you want inevitable. This is the step that many people don't understand, and it is the key difference between wanting a better career and actually making it happen. As usual, before we do the breathing exercise, I want to check in with your survival brain. Last week, we took a look at what part of your mind is driving your decisions, you or your social programming. And just like the discussion about our animal instincts, questioning our social programming can cause a lot of distress. So I'd like you to check in with yourself right now about where you are on the continuum of change. Did the information from last week align with your worldview, or did it completely shake up your inner snow globe? I also want you to check in and see if the continual work each week is catching up to you or if you're ready for the next step. Remember, there is no shame in taking a couple days off to let your mind and body catch up. I want you to be honest with yourself. Don't follow some artificial timeline, even the timeline of this course. Be truthful about what you really need right now. If you need one, take a break. You can pick up where you left off and start again after you give yourself the rest that you need. This is the main reason I offer lifetime access. I want you to be able to tailor the pace to your own needs. As you check in with yourself, let's also walk through the breathing exercise to help you balance your nervous system. Using your breath to self-regulate is one way you can learn to show up for yourself. As much as we need communities around us, sometimes people just can't be there when we need them. This is when showing up to support ourselves can give us the comfort and care we need in the moment that we need it. Today, during the breathing exercise, you can keep your eyes open or closed. Remember, it's designed to be used in the middle of a difficult moment, so it can be helpful to practice it in real-life situations. Let's begin. Wherever you are, bring your awareness into your body. Take a couple of slow, deep breaths. Now gently even out your inhale and your exhale. Nothing extreme. It should feel natural to your body. As your breath becomes even and as you're ready, elongate your exhale. Again, nothing extreme. This is just a little bit longer than your inhale. I'm going to hold you here for one more minute to practice, but I want you to listen to your body and only stick with the pattern as long as it's comfortable for you. You'll hear some music in the background so you know I'm here, and at the end of 1 minute, I'll let you know. Great. You can let go of the breathing pattern and come back into a regular breath. Now that you're in a more relaxed and creative state, I want you to imagine your ideal workday. For this scenario, you're at a point in your career where you're able to decide every aspect of your workday. As you wake up and you open your eyes for the day, notice when you've decided to get up. As you get ready for the day, notice how you've structured your morning. As you head into the place that you work, notice how you got there. And as you arrive at work, notice what kind of place it is. Are you working indoors or outside? Do you work by yourself or with a small team, or maybe with lots of people? Take a moment and notice what kind of work you're doing. What problems does your work solve? And what does it provide for people? Now, notice what you do for breaks and meals. As you head back into your personal life, notice what you've decided to do with your time. How many people do you spend the rest of your day with? And as the day starts winding down and you start getting ready for bed, notice where you are and how you prefer to end your day. As you close your eyes, take a deep breath and feel gratitude for the freedom you have to make decisions about how you spend your day. Right. You can come back into the present moment. When you consciously envision your ideal work life, you're rehearsing the life that you want. If this exercise works for you, and it's okay if it doesn't, it can not only be a low risk way to run scenarios in your mind, but it can also remind you why you're making the changes you're making. Having a goal in mind can help you get through some of your more challenging periods. So, the topic of how to make good decisions about your life has to be as old and worn as a topic can be. There are so many different perspectives out there, from the mathematical algorithm type models to the most eccentric and esoteric ways. And the truth is, there isn't one right way to make a decision. You need to find what works for you. And in the next 4 weeks, we'll do exactly that. I have two main objectives for the next 4 weeks. The first is to help you find a decision making framework that works for you, so you have a reliable method to lean on when you're faced with tough decisions. We aren't aiming for a perfect final product here in 4 weeks, but something that you can start with and tweak over the years as you learn more and more about how you make the best decisions and how you produce the best results for yourself. The second objective is to help you begin using that framework to make a decision about the direction you want your career to go. This is the point where many people feel paralyzed. Learning the theory of how to decide may feel comfortable, but actually making the decisions can be overwhelming. And there's a good reason for it. The English word decide originates from the Latin word to cut off. Deciding means that you cut off other possibilities. And sometimes it can feel like deciding is limiting. So we stay in limbo, keeping all of our options open, or so we think. What limbo is really doing is unconsciously saying no to everything. It feels safe because it allows us to stay where we are, but that safety doesn't move us forward. In reality, not making a decision cuts off all of your options. It's only when you're willing to choose a direction and go for it that you can say yes to the options in front of you. Bridging the gap between knowing what to do and doing it is the real work of this course. Head knowledge is great for dinner party conversations, but it won't change your life. To effect real change, you will need to apply what you've learned, gather your courage, and make some challenging decisions. And if making decisions that are in your best interest is new for you, it's normal to experience resistance. We are hardwired for homeostasis. But you don't have to take a massive leap of faith into the unknown. I'm not asking you to jump out of an airplane without a parachute. I'm asking you to make small, steady, calculated decisions that move you forward as you learn to trust your inner guidance. Learning to trust your own ability to make decisions makes me think of when I learned to walk across the Alaskan bogs and swamps. I don't really like it when I can't see my feet or when the ground under me moves unless it's snow. Walking across a marshy bog where my feet sink in can be really overwhelming for me. It's easy for me to feel paralyzed and stuck in one place. And this wasn't a problem until I moved to Alaska, where crossing bogs and swamps is a regular part of summertime hiking. At first, I just decided I wouldn't go. Facing my fear seemed like too much of a hassle and not really worth it. But as I saw the pictures of what my friends were able to access after a short trip across a bog, I realized that giving into my fear was limiting the very adventures I had moved here for. I could also see that other people were doing it and nothing bad was happening to them. So I knew it was technically possible. I knew that this was a fear I could face and learn to manage. What I found was that going with people who berated me, made fun of me, or pushed me too far past what I was comfortable with was really counterproductive. It just increased my fears and it destroyed my self confidence. What worked for me was going out into the bogs by myself and slowly, patiently, and with a lot of deep breathing, prove to myself that I could do it step by step. I really had to find my own way through my fears and teach myself how to be comfortable in the midst of my inner chaos. Learning to trust your decisions can be the same. Now, you may not want to do it alone. You might want to find a supportive group or a friend to help you walk through your fears. But whatever you choose, this is the process I invite you to explore. This is the time to find your own way through your career decisions. If you do decide to face your fears with a friend or a group, be careful that they're not going to push you too far out of your comfort zone or erode your self-confidence. I want you to feel supported so you can find your own way. I find that having a career-making framework helps bolster self-confidence and it ensures that you don't forget important aspects of a decision. Personally, I can see the big picture of something, but sometimes I tend to overlook logistical details, especially if I'm excited. So I make sure that I have details covered in my framework so that I can make quick decisions with confidence. I know other people who are amazing at the details, but they forget to think about the big picture or the long-term implications. So they need steps to help them remember to think about the big picture. The framework I'll walk you through includes the big picture and high-level considerations, as well as the minute details. It also leaves room for you to add and subtract things depending on your natural strengths. One main mistake people make is thinking a career decision is one permanent decision, when it's actually an ongoing process of asking two main questions: what and how? What do you want, and how are you going to make that happen? And they might seem similar, but those are completely different questions. And if you try to answer them together, it will be overwhelming and paralyzing. You'll also probably miss some important steps and some amazing opportunities. Most traditional career advice is focused on the how part of the equation. These are logistical tactics like resumes and interview skills. Most people assume that you have the what figured out. Even business professionals will say, if you know what you want to do, I can help you do it. They usually stay away from helping people figure out what they want to do because that's the most difficult step and it can take a long time. Figuring out what you want to do is not a quick win that a consultant can bang out in 24 hours. It's easy to whip up a resume or a website. What takes time is finding the deeper truth about what you want long term. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable when we don't know what we want right off the top of our heads, so we feel drawn to jump to the easy tactics to quiet our anxiety about not knowing what we want. If this resonates with you, I invite you to stay in the discomfort for a little longer and work to discover your what before you mount a spray and pray resume campaign to relieve your anxiety. I promise that you know what you want, and I'm here for your entire journey to help you find it. As we go through today, I encourage you to use the tools you learned in weeks 6, 7, and 8 as you make decisions. You want to check in with your inner navigation by using exercises like the body compass from week 6. And you want to pay attention to your instinctive reactions like all or nothing thinking or your negative bias to make sure you aren't having knee-jerk reactions. It's also helpful to look at your cognitive thoughts. Are the things you're thinking just old negative stories that you've been told all your life? Are you open to a new outcome? Remember, we're looking for an integrated decision that uses your heart, mind, and body. Also, as we walk through the questions today, notice if your brain wants to jump instantly from the what do you want to do to how are you going to make it happen. For example, if you write down that you want to live in the mountains, notice if your brain immediately jumps in with 14 reasons why that's not possible. When you can, notice this instant objection and obsession with the logistics and do your best to herd your mind back to what it is you want to do. Because the voice of objection isn't necessarily the voice of reality and reason. In this case, it's most likely the voice of homeostasis. we will certainly work through the logistics of moving into your career. But I don't want your brain to rule out what you want before we've even had a chance to really do any due diligence and honestly consider it. Also, as we go through this, if you have a really persistent question or your brain is really worried about the logistics, write them down on a journal, or you can use exercise 7 that I've included for you. That way, you won't forget the detail and you can come back to it when you're ready to work on the logistical side of the equation. If your mind doesn't automatically jump to the logistical how phase, this is still pertinent for you because you may have friends or family members who do. Sometimes they're the ones who will frame up your ideas and dreams as impractical. They'll ask a million tactical questions before you've even fully formed your idea. And they may say that they're just trying to help protect you because you're too young or too naive or just too Pollyanna to see the world as it really is. And while their heart might be in the right place, it's the wrong type of support at this point. If this happens, I want you to do one of two things, depending on who they are. Either set a boundary and let them know that their line of questioning or their attack isn't okay, or make a mental note not to share your dreams with them when they're in the beginning stages. Just say, "Thank you for your concern," and immediately redirect the conversation. One of the most interesting conversation redirects you can use in this situation is asking them about their dreams. What are the dreams that they've given up because they thought they were too impractical? The reason I'm taking time with this is because if you jump to the how or the tactics or the logistics too soon, you will hijack your creative process and limit your options. Creativity isn't this tidy, linear formula that spits out a result like a computer. Everyone has creative ability, but as most things, it can happen differently in different people. Many of us start the creative process by throwing out a bunch of wild ideas. Writers will often tell you that their first drafts are all over the place or have little resemblance to their final book. First drafts, sketches, test versions, and brain dumps are a necessary, if messy, part of the process. When you're in the imagination phase, you need to treat your creative process and your ideas as you would a brand new infant. They aren't ready to face the harsh world on day one. They need to be cared for by warm, loving, and nurturing people until they're ready to be tested. With all this said, creativity alone won't make your ideas come to life. We need a way to join our creative ideas with our practical abilities. One isn't more important than the other. To get a good result, you need both. One way to integrate both the creative and the logistical side of bringing a goal into the real world is by using a model used by organizations and business. They use a framework for making long-term and large impact decisions called strategic planning that integrates both the creative and the practical sides. If you've ever participated in an organization's strategic planning process, you know that there are many approaches. I'm going to share with you the one that I've used most in my leadership positions, as well as in my coaching and my personal life. I'm going to walk you through the overview so you can get a sense of where we're going, and then we'll get into the details of each step. The first 3 steps help you establish what you want to do. The last 3 steps help you establish how you're going to do that. The first step is to decide on your vision. This is the overarching goal, the big picture, or the 40,000-foot view of what you want. The second step is to decide on your mission. This is your intrinsic motivation, or why you want to achieve that vision. The third step is to decide on your values. Your values are the internal rudder that help you navigate difficult situations and stay true to yourself and your vision. The fourth step is deciding on your strategy. This is your overarching plan about how you're going to accomplish your vision and your mission. The fifth step is deciding on your goals. This is how you'll practically implement your strategy. And the last step is your tactics. These are the logistics, the tasks, and details that help you execute your goals. Notice that half the work is done on what you want to do, and also notice that the tactics and all the tiny details come very last, not first. And this makes sense. If you think about planning a trip, you need to know your destination, what you're going to do when you get there, and why you're going, because your travel arrangements and even your clothing will be very different if you're going to Galapagos Islands for a week versus going to Greenland for a month-long expedition. Using this type of framework also reduces the amount of time and energy you'll spend making decisions. Once you have a rough idea of your vision, mission, and values, those tend to stay steady or just get tweaked from time to time. Your overarching vision isn't something you're likely to change every week. Even your strategy and goals tend to stay the same for long periods of time. This type of consistency leaves space and time for you to concentrate on taking aligned action on the tactics. You aren't deciding what you're going to do over and over again. You can focus your time and energy on the logistics that bring your dream to life. And if this all seems like a lot, I don't expect you to have your entire plan figured out by tomorrow. This is just a guide for you to know what steps you've finished and what you still need to do. This also doesn't need to be a 30-page detailed report. I keep mine in a very simple document that I update monthly. This format keeps me on track without having to think about it all the time. How you use the framework depends on what works best for your brain. I know people who have it on sticky notes on their fridge because that's what keeps them motivated, and I know several people who really do it on the back of a napkin and just keep it on their desk. The format you have it in doesn't really matter. Having the foundation written down somewhere is what's important. Also, these first 3 steps, vision, mission, and values, don't need to be done in linear order. Sometimes one step will give you insight into the other, and sometimes an aha moment will happen for everything all at once. I would encourage you to finish the first 4 steps before you move into the last 3 steps, because you need to know what you're going to do before you figure out how you're going to do it. So let's walk through each step. The first step is establishing your vision. What do you want your life and career to look like overall? This is your 30, 40, or even 50-year plan. In the beginning, it can be helpful to be as broad as possible with your vision. A general vision allows you to be more flexible and allows more opportunity while still giving you a stable base to work from. When I started on my own journey, I didn't have the detailed vision that I have today. All I knew was that I wanted a job where I made a difference somehow, and I wanted to live closer to the mountains and nature. And that was enough to get started. On any journey, you have to pick a direction to get started, and you course correct as you gather more information. But to go anywhere, you have to make your best guess, decide on a route, and start moving. Because if you don't have any kind of established vision, it's easy to get pushed around by the flavor of the day. As humans, we need some kind of boundary, even if it's just a loose structure. Having this type of framework gives our survival brain the certainty it needs to feel safe enough to explore new opportunities. If your mind resists being boxed in, know that your vision can grow and change over time. You aren't restricted by your first idea, it just gives you a place to start. Sometimes, when thinking about your long-term vision, it can be helpful to get out of your normal routine to think about what you want in life. Try going for a walk, get out in nature, or go for a drive. If it's feasible, it can be helpful to travel and get away for a weekend or go on a retreat. Anything that shakes up your normal routine and allows you to think about what you really want in the decades ahead. If thinking about your true desires feels uncomfortable, that's also okay. Many of us were taught not to dream outside of our means. There's a saying that goes, "Don't want what you can't have." But this is a false belief that is just meant to protect us from discomfort. The fear is that if you want something or reach for something and it doesn't work out the way you thought, you'll be disappointed, crushed, or hurt by the failure. But the truth is, while it may be uncomfortable or embarrassing, we can survive discomfort and grow from the experience. Not reaching for your deepest desires, however, is more likely to cause pain over your lifetime than trying and failing. In fact, if you reach for your dream and fail, you just have more information. You can course correct, adjust, or make a different decision. So I want you to spend some time this week and imagine your ideal future. Really take some time to envision in your mind what that looks like. If you're having trouble, remember back to when you were a kid and you and your friends would pretend. This type of pretend play uses your imagination and that sense of play to help you get to what you really want. You aren't committing to this outcome yet, you're just pretending it could be true to allow your mind to explore all of the options before you choose the best one for you. And if you benefit from the focus that questions bring, I have a list for you, and I've also included them in the exercises for this week. You don't have to answer all of them, but they may help spark a memory or an idea that's laying dormant in your mind. It also may help to look over your notes from the last 8 weeks for inspiration. Here are the questions. If you could have any future you wanted, if nothing was in the way, if you didn't have to make anyone else happy, if you had no financial, family, or educational barriers, what would your life and career look like? 2. Thinking back through the ideal workday exercises we do at the beginning of each lesson, what themes are present? What comes up over and over for you? Jot those down. 3. Go back through the exercises in week 1. What did you write down for your preferences? 4. Think about the work you did in week 4. What trends did you notice that you want to pull into this new future vision? 5. What type of environment do you want to live in? 6. What kind of lifestyle do you want? 7. How much free time do you want? 8. What did you love to do as a kid? You might have even been reprimanded for it. For example, as a kid, I was constantly thinking up big adventures and dreaming up impossible things to do. And I was often scolded for not being more normal and realistic. But those qualities of big ideas and adventure now play a prominent role in my work. 9. What, if anything, did you get in trouble for as a kid? I want you to look at the seed in that behavior and see if it reveals anything. 10. What makes the time fly by for you? What can you spend the whole day doing and not even realize the day is gone? 11. What do you do on your days off that isn't work? 12. What have you always done even if you haven't been paid for it? 13. As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? 14. What would you do if you could go back in time and start over your work life? 15. If you do work that you resent right now, what would you rather be doing instead? Resentment is a great indicator. If you resent something, or if you're bitter about having to do it, it's a really good sign. Often you want to be doing the opposite of that. 16. What jobs are you jealous that people get to do? Jealousy is another really good indicator of your desires. Typically, we're jealous of the things that we want in our lives, and it's not a bad thing if you use it as information for your own navigation. 17. What does your mind or social programming tell you that you can't or shouldn't do for work that you really want to do? 18. Thinking back through all of your jobs, what were the themes? 19. Which were your favorite jobs and which jobs were your least favorite? 20. Now look at the long view. At the end of your life, what would you regret not doing? Again, you don't have to answer all of the questions. The intent is to spark your imagination about what kind of life you really want. It's not an uncommon experience when I'm working with a client that they discover their desired career path is something they've wanted for a long time, but had convinced themselves they couldn't have. Sometimes it's revealed by what they want to do when they retire. Sometimes it's what they envy in others, but very often it's something they've wanted to do for a long time, even back into their childhood. And what's often true is that it's possible, but they didn't know how to make it happen at the time, so they dismissed it. or they'd been talked out of it before they could really figure out how to make a living at it. Personally, I was at this tipping point when I was 28 and living in New York City. I was in a career that I thought I should pursue, but I didn't really enjoy. What I had dreamed of as a kid was being a park ranger in Glacier National Park. We used to visit the park, and I would dream about getting to live there near the glaciers. I also had a really strong connection with animals, so it wasn't really surprising that at 28, I decided to move to Alaska to work with sled dogs. It had many of the elements that I dreamed about as a child. I hadn't pursued anything like it out of high school because I didn't think it was possible, and I had no idea how to make it happen. And although my jobs have changed, living in Alaska in nature and being around animals is woven into all of my career choices. If you have a desire or a fantasy that you don't think is possible, for now, write it down. Let yourself play around with the idea. You aren't committing to it, you're just exploring the possibility. Often, our wildest dreams are possible if we just give it a chance. To wrap up your vision, I want you to look back over your answers, make your best guess, and write down your vision. What do you want your future career and life to look like? Remember, you aren't committing to this forever. It's just a place to start. You can make changes as you gain more information, but you need to choose a vision and get started. The next step is to decide on your mission. This is one of the critical steps most people miss. Often we think missions are for big companies or nonprofit organizations. But the same reason a mission sustains a larger organization is the same reason I advocate for you having one. A mission is simply the deeper reason or why you do what you do. If you're only going to work to collect a paycheck, it's going to be hard for that to be fulfilling long term. I'm not saying that getting paid or doing a job that you don't really like to pay your current bills is wrong. It's not. But if that's the only reason you go to work, you'll eventually lose motivation. Once you have a mission, you can connect any job, even a job you don't like, into that broader mission. And it can help you keep challenging times in perspective. For example, knowing that you're working in a job so you have peace of mind about your bills while you figure out your next step gives your job a purpose. Or maybe your job is giving you the work experience or connections you need to fulfill your bigger vision. In one of my guides, 7 Powerful Steps to Take When You Hate Your Job But You Can't Quit, I advise that you give your job a job. Shift your perspective from resenting your job to making that job work for you while you're still in it, and put it to work to serve your bigger mission and vision. What transforms a job from a paycheck into a mission is your perspective, and that is free. Your job and career can be a tool for change. And if you want to make the world a better place, you can do that in the job you have right now. Your mission is also important because it's what gets you out of bed even when you don't feel like it. It's that intrinsic motivation to keep driving forward toward your dreams. Because even if your work is fulfilling, and even if your career makes a difference and brings you joy, you will have days that you don't want to go to it. You will still have days where you doubt yourself, where you don't feel well, or you feel like you've made a mistake. It's just not possible to go through decades of working without having a bad day. This is why it's so important to choose work that matters to you and that's important to you over the long haul. If you rely on your daily whims, validation from your circumstances, and the people around you to motivate you, you will eventually give up. Think about raising children. Ideally, you love them, hopefully unconditionally. But there are days, weeks, and months that are really hard. No one is going to say that being up every night with a screaming or sick child is enjoyable. People know that having children isn't easy and fun all the time. It's fulfilling. It's worth it. What keeps you going through the hard times is your underlying mission to provide unconditional love and a nurturing environment so that they can thrive and grow. I invite you to think of your career in the same way. And just like your vision, your mission doesn't need to be a perfectly crafted, detailed statement. A lot of people are surprised to find out that my most basic personal mission is to effect positive change in the world. And it's super vague on purpose because it's the core of everything I do. When I looked over all of my jobs and I looked at my personality, I realized I was never content when my work wasn't moving something in a positive direction. I also want to note that having a mission doesn't mean you sacrifice all your wants, needs, and desires on the altar of saving the world. In fact, self sacrifice is unsustainable in a long and meaningful career. Your mission is to help you stay true to what you want and who you are. When you stop trying to follow society's artificial rules about what you should be doing and align with who you are and what you want, that's where you can be the most benefit to the world. Storyteller Michael Meade, in his performance of Why the World Doesn't End, captures this idea perfectly. He says, if a person becomes who they're intended to be, they're automatically contributing to the benefit of other people and the world. That's the sweet spot we're looking for, not self-sacrifice, but a synergy that feeds your soul, which naturally helps other people. Having a mission can also help you know when you're off track. No one gets it right all the time, and we all stray from who we are and the things we want most. Knowing your mission can help you come back to home base. Again, if you benefit from the focus of questions, I have a list to help you get the creative juices flowing. 1. What difference or change do you want to make in the world? 2. If you had all the money and resources necessary to solve a major world problem, which one would you solve? 3. What legacy do you want to leave? What mark do you want to leave on the world? 4. What would you be willing to work 30 to 40 years to accomplish, even through multiple failures? 5. What do you want to be known for? 6. What kind of work matters to you? 7. What life lessons do you tend to learn over and over and over? Often, we're here to solve problems that we had to learn the hard way. And if you're feeling stuck because you think that having a mission means you have to be a world leader or sacrifice yourself, pay attention to all the people who provide products and services that matter to you. Maybe your hairdresser knows just how to cut your hair and make you feel confident. Or maybe your mechanic gives you peace of mind because of their expertise with your vehicle. All kinds of jobs matter in this world, and they can have a mission that connects them with a deeper reason they do their work. Having a mission also applies to artists and athletes. Being able to move someone emotionally can change their world. Watching athletes give their all is inspiring, and it reconnects us with our own inner greatness. Any job you have can be connected to a bigger mission and a purpose. To wrap up this section, look back over your answers and write down your mission. Remember, you're not committing to this forever, it's a place to start, so just make your best guess. You can make changes as you gain more information, but you need to choose a mission for now and move forward. The third step is to decide on your values. Defining your values is another step that's often overlooked by many traditional career advisors. But if you don't consciously think about what you value, it's easy to end up in jobs that go against what you believe in and who you are at your core. When money, power, and survival are involved, our instincts can be incredibly compelling and urge us to say yes to getting more resources, even if it compromises our morals. In fact, money is one way to determine your values. Values are priceless. They are worth far more than money. Entrepreneur Rand Fishkin, in his book Lost and Founder, says it well. They're not core values if you're willing to sacrifice them in exchange for money. Your values are there to act as a guide and a rudder when you're making choices of all types, but especially career decisions. They can help you navigate tricky situations and moments when your judgment is clouded. If you end up in a job you're good at but requires you to turn a blind eye to what you believe in, there's no amount of money that can quiet that type of inner conflict. The cognitive dissonance alone will suck your energy and erode your ability to be fulfilled long term. It will affect your performance, your personal relationships, and your self-confidence. When you're doing work that aligns with the values and beliefs you hold, your work actually feeds that part of yourself. And it's more than neutral. It ends up being a net positive gain on your energy and your feelings of satisfaction. As before, here are some prompts and questions to get you thinking about your own core values. Look back to the exercises in week 1, especially the exercises on your rants. The things we complain about, especially the topics that we just can't keep quiet about, can point to our values. For example, if you yell uncontrollably at the TV when a referee in a soccer match makes the wrong call, you may value fairness. If the idea of a regular 9 to 5 office job living in a city makes you want to pull your hair out, you might value freedom. Here are some questions to get you started. What injustices do you take action to fix right now? And which injustices can you rant on and on about? 2. What would you fight for or take a stand for publicly, and why? 3. What TV shows and articles get you upset? 4. What do you get angry about in general? 5. What do you argue about with your partner or your friends? 6. Which topics spark heated debates around the family or holiday dinner table? This question is a way to turn those conflicts into useful information. Look at the root of the conflict. What values are being violated for you? 7. Who do you admire, and what qualities do they have? 8. What decisions and accomplishments are you most proud of in your life? 9. What are the top 3 things you spend your time doing? 10. What are the top 3 areas you spend your money on? Time and money are 2 of your most valuable resources, and what you spend them on can give you clues about what you value. 11. What values do you aspire to, but don't embody right now? And 12. Write down any other values that matter to you. To wrap up this section, look back over your answers, make your best guess, and write down your values. If you ended up with a lot of values, it might be helpful to group them into similar categories so there are fewer to remember. But there's no rule. You can have as many as you like, and as always, do what works best for you. Also remember, you aren't committing to these values forever. It's a place to start. You can add or subtract values as you go, but choosing values allows you to move forward with confidence that you can make decisions and stay true to what matters most to you. Congratulations! That's the last step in figuring out what you want to do. Once you've completed your vision, mission, and values, you should have a better picture of what you're aiming for. I know this may seem like a lot of time and effort to spend on clarifying what you want, but spending time here will help you focus your efforts and limit shooting in the dark trying to get what you want or just sitting around hoping it will work out. I can tell you from experience that there is nothing more frustrating than devoting your time and energy to something you didn't think through all the way, reaching that goal and realizing it's not really what you wanted. This may build character, but it's far more efficient to spend a week or a month clarifying what you really want at this point in your life. Now that you have an overall vision, you know your internal motivation and the values that guide you, it's time to figure out how you're going to accomplish that vision. I've been through several iterations of this process with my own career. In 2013, I could tell it was time for another shift in my career plan. What I was being asked to do at work no longer aligned with my values, the culture of the organization was increasingly dysfunctional, and my health was suffering. I knew I still wanted to effect positive change, but I also knew that I wanted to work for myself, have a more flexible schedule, and make a more direct impact on people's lives. When I looked back through all the jobs I had liked and what my natural strengths were, I realized that I had a long pattern of helping people find work that suited them. I had honed this skill as a manager, trying to find positions where people were happy and did their best work. I'd also studied human behavior and how to build high-performing teams, and I'd been helping friends figure out their careers all the way back into my 20s without realizing it. I also had people close to me who unconsciously caused a lot of pain to the people around them because they felt trapped in a job they hated. Add to that I wasn't born knowing what I wanted to do, so I had personal experience and empathy for people who had to figure it out as an adult. Of all the problems I could solve in the world, I knew that helping people find the right career not only helped their quality of life, but also solved other problems that I cared about, like economic disparity, mental and physical health, as well as fostering a better environment for children. I'll admit that when I started to think about my career shift, career coach didn't jump to the top of my mind. For one, I didn't know that job existed. But also, it didn't have the zing of adventure guide or some other fancy title that I subconsciously thought was really important. But the more I sat with the actual day to day lifestyle I wanted, the problems I wanted to help people solve, and the strengths I had to offer, the path became really clear, regardless of the title. In retrospect, even with the challenges that are inherent in owning a business, this is the most engaged, excited, and fulfilled I've ever felt in a job. My worst day now is infinitely better than my best days were before. It's a job I wake up excited to tackle every day. And that's the same energy I want for you in your career. Something that lights you up, even on the challenging days, and a purpose and mission that is satisfying on a level that's hard to describe in words. When you sit down to decide on your strategy, I encourage you to keep an open mind. Maybe even write yourself a reminder. Because when we get attached to the outcome or what other people will think, we cut off our ability to see important opportunities that exist. If you notice you're talking yourself out of something, jot down your objection on exercise 7 so you don't forget, and then do your best to come back and really consider that as an option. In this stage, you aren't looking to rule things out as much as you're looking for your top strengths and the best way for you to accomplish your vision. Especially pay attention to where your 3 areas of strength, your affective, instinctive, and cognitive strengths overlap. That sweet spot you identified back in week 4 is the easiest and most satisfying way for you to accomplish your goals. Take time to consider how you can use those layered strengths to achieve your dreams. As before, I have some questions to get you started. As you walk through the questions below, you'll notice that some will be more strategic, like which aspect of your vision do you want to work on first, and some will be more practical, like do you want to collect a paycheck or do you want to own a business? This blend is because strategy is the axis where your what and your how meet. This is where your dreams begin turning into reality. This step can be a real relief for some people, and for others, it causes more stress. There isn't a right or wrong reaction, but it's worth noticing your own pattern. Deciding on a strategy can also bring up a lot of resistance because it's one step closer to changing your circumstances, and your survival brain knows that and it may put up a fight. If you sense stress or resistance, check back into where you are on the continuum of change. Do you need to take a day off, go for a walk, or come back after you've cleared your head? Or maybe you need help clarifying your goals. If you do, reach out to your resources for support, including me. Whatever you do, don't let yourself give up now. Take a break, recharge, but don't stop completely. You've come too far, and this is a big turning point in your career. So here are the questions to get you started. 1. Brainstorm a list of at least 10 different ways you could accomplish your vision and mission. 2. Look back through the exercises from weeks 1 through 4. What are your top strengths? 3. Where do your strengths overlap into your sweet spot? You can find this in week 4. 4. What's the easiest way for you to accomplish your vision? 5. Which parts of your vision do you want to tackle right now? 6. What's the easiest part of your vision that you could accomplish right now? 7. Which parts of your mission do you want to tackle right now? 8. What is the easiest part of your mission that you could accomplish right now? 9. How can you have the greatest impact right now for what you named in your mission? 10. Do you want to work for a company or for yourself? 11. Where do you want to work? What city or place? 12. What kind of physical environment do you want to work in? 13. What kind of mental environment do you want to work in? 14. What kind of political environment do you want to work in? 15. Do you want a regular or a flexible schedule? 16. Do you want to work with other people or by yourself? 17. What kind of customers do you like to work with? To wrap up this section, look back over your answers, make your best guess, and decide on a strategy for accomplishing your mission and vision. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, it's your best guess given the information you have right now. Deciding on your strategy is a huge step, and you deserve to celebrate. Have a dance party in your living room, get yourself a treat, whatever you normally do to congratulate yourself for how far you've come. In all seriousness, really give yourself credit for doing the hard work. I can tell you that most people in the workforce are just scrolling through job sites, blasting out resumes, and praying they'll get lucky. By investing your time and energy, you will set yourself apart. Having a strategy and a plan is what differentiates people who achieve their dreams and those who don't. It's not money and it's not time. It's focus and persistence. Many things in life you can't control, but your willingness to decide on a strategy and take steps to get there is something you can control. Now that you have a strategy, it's time to take the next step and decide on your goals. Overwhelm is the enemy of progress, and one way to defeat overwhelm is to break your strategy down into smaller steps. If you're distractible like I am, having goals will help you stay focused. Unlike vision or mission that can seem more ethereal, goals are much more straightforward. They have tangible results and can often be measured and tracked. For example, if part of your strategy is living in a different location, moving would be your goal. You would then need to decide your time frame, when you want to start the process, and when you'd like to be moved in. Let's say you want to start the process in January and be moved in by August. That gives you a tangible goal. The dates may move around, and that's normal. The very nature of goals is more fluid than things like your vision and mission, but having the goal written down gives you a way to keep track of it when you're in the process. If part of your strategy is working for yourself, opening a business would be your goal. Then you decide when you want to start the process and when you'd like to open your business. It's not uncommon to have your goals overlap or be dependent on one another. The beauty of having your goals written down is that when one of them changes, you can update the others as well. This may seem obvious, but when you have a lot of plates spinning at once, it's useful to have it written down somewhere as a safety check. Having your goals written down also helps you monitor your level of change. It's easy for change to sneak up on us until we suddenly find ourselves buried with more than we can handle. In this example, starting a new business and moving at the same time would be two major changes at once. Great care would need to be taken to accommodate two big financial impacts, both with large stress loads that are logistically very heavy. It doesn't mean you can't do both, but to be successful, you need to have a plan. To wrap up this section, look back at your strategy, make your best guess, and decide on your goals and set projected start dates and end dates for each goal. Once you have all of your goals written out, go back through and rank them in order of priority. Try to limit your active goals to no more than 3. I know it's exciting to have a lot of projects going at once, but unless you have teams of people to help you, you will gain more traction if you focus on your 3 most important goals. The last step is to break down your goals into even smaller steps called tactics, also called tasks or logistics. This is the short-term tangible goals that you can take action on like a to-do list, but with a much greater and more permanent impact on your life. Tactics are crucial for your success. It's important to set time aside to envision your future, but it's equally important to take action if you're going to build a better career. Dreams don't materialize out of nowhere. You have to take steps to create the environment you want. So what do tactics practically look like? Let's look back at our 2 examples, moving and starting a business. We'll start with the goal of moving. What would you need to do to orchestrate a move? Tactics might look like looking for housing options, finding a realtor, visiting the area, looking at residences, figuring out if you need a car or how transportation works in that area, finding out when your current rental agreement or lease ends or how much notice you need to give, saving for a deposit, sorting through your belongings, packing, getting boxes, hiring a truck, and so on. For the goal of starting a new business, what would you need to make that happen? Tactics for this could include deciding if you need more education or a certification, doing some market analysis, figuring out what you're going to sell, deciding who you want as customers, coming up with a revenue stream, deciding on how you'll accept payments, getting a bank account, getting legal advice, figuring out how to get a business license, and so on. Again, writing all of this down may seem like overkill right now, but writing your plan down now will help you refocus when the world is turned upside down and you forget what you're doing, or you feel too overwhelmed to keep going. When that happens, you can pull out your plan and remind yourself where you left off and what your next step is. Having a plan keeps you grounded, keeps you centered, and is one of the keys to making your dreams happen against all odds. To wrap up this section, look back at your goals and break them down into even smaller steps. Write down what you need to do to accomplish each goal and then prioritize those steps. For some of you, this will feel like relief because you're finally working on tangible steps. For others, figuring out the details may feel overwhelming. However you naturally operate is totally fine here. Just like some people need help brainstorming ideas, other people need help figuring out the logistics. If you feel stuck here, don't hesitate to get the support you need. Don't let old stories or old patterns stop you. Ask a friend, a colleague, or a professional to give you some help. Every little step you finish is one step closer to your goal. Here are some things I want you to be aware of as you start making your career decisions. The first is a question I get from clients about other decision-making methods. I work with people from all walks of life and all belief systems, so I really try to keep my methods as neutral as possible. But occasionally, I'm asked what I think about other methods of decision-making. My measure for anything is, does it move you forward, and does it produce the result you want? If it works for you and you like it, use it. What I will say is, don't ever let someone or something make a career choice for you. Make sure that you have the final say about the things that affect your life. The second thing you need to know is about the change cycle. We've talked a lot about the continuum of change and making sure you're on the edge of growth but not past it. The change cycle is similar, but instead of measuring how much change is present in your life, it tells you what to expect as you move through the change cycle. As unique as humans are, we're also remarkably predictable. There are several models to describe the change cycle, and I'm going to share a model that I like from the technology field. Innovation and technology is an industry full of rapid and compounding change. Understanding how humans handle change, whether it's a software update or an industry disruption, is a core skill for any IT leader. The model I'll share with you is called the Gartner Hype Cycle, but it's reflected in many human cycles like romantic relationships, adopting a puppy, having your first child, or finding a career. It also follows the arc of the hero's journey, the story outline for most of the popular novels and movies that you adore. The cycle starts with some kind of trigger. In our case, something triggered you to sign up for this course. Often, something bad has happened with your job or your career in general. Something has pushed you over the edge far enough to seek a new solution or an innovation in your career. It's at this point that expectations start to grow until they top out at what's called the peak of inflated expectations. Maybe you think that if you solve your career, every moment after that will be butterflies and rainbows. I assure you that life gets infinitely better when you feel satisfied with the work you do, but it's not a cure-all that solves everything. When we're talking about technology products, the peak of inflated expectations is when you see products advertised in the media. At this point, you'll notice that they're touted to solve every problem known to the human race, including solving your insomnia and the pet hair on your couch. Not long after the peak come the realities of life. Everything is not as perfect as it seemed. You just thought your new date was a gift from heaven, and it turns out they rolled the toilet paper the wrong way. Maybe you fantasized about working for yourself, only to find that opening a business is a little more challenging than you thought. This isn't a failing on your part or in your judgment, it's human nature. We tend to overestimate our abilities and our outcomes. The downward slide eventually ends in the trough of disillusionment. It's here where you probably feel exhausted, overwhelmed, and your self-confidence is nowhere in sight. It's at this low point that you have a choice to make. You either quit and give up, or you find a way to get up and figure out how to keep going. A lot of the work I've introduced to you is to help you get through this point. This is why I teach the breathing exercise, why I encourage you to have a bigger vision and a mission, and why we'll talk about commitment in the next couple of weeks. The trough of disillusionment is a turning point, and this is a hard place. You will need to have all of your support, resources, and willpower to pull yourself back up. This is the moment that willpower is made for. You've heard me say that willpower is a flimsy energy to rely on long term, and that's because it's made to get you through hard times. It's a short-term energy you don't want to squander on things that don't matter. You want to hold it in reserve so it's there when you need it most. When you're at this turning point, if you decide to keep going, you then start the journey to a stronger, more resilient, and sustainable future. This is where you tackle the problems, learn the lessons, and turn your dreams into reality. I don't share this cycle with you to discourage you. I know it sounds like a lot of doom and gloom. I share it because I don't want you to misinterpret a very normal process of change. So many people misinterpret the downward slide as a sign that they've made a mistake and that they should quit. Or they think the feelings of despair are a personal failing. They give up right when they need to keep going. Understanding the landscape of the journey ahead can help you mitigate the highs and lows, give you grace through the process, and help you actually make it to the sustainable future you've been looking for. The third thing I want you to pay attention to is when you're making decisions based in fear. Notice that I said when and not if, because we all do this from time to time. But fear-based decisions are usually instinctively driven, and more often than not, they lead you to the wrong choice. Fear will compel you to stay safe, do what you know, secure as many resources as you can, which, by the way, will never be enough resources, and keep people around you happy at all costs. These are all the types of decisions that make us say yes to jobs we know that are wrong for us, overlook our values, sacrifice our talents, and ignore our joy. Fear tells us that we have to choose between our survival and our well-being. They are fraught with false narratives, scare tactics, and clouded vision. And fear has a very distinct signature. You can tell you're making a fear-based choice because you will only care about your survival and safety. Fear will lie to you and say that you must sacrifice yourself endlessly and that what you want isn't necessary for your survival. Your body may even feel tight, constricted, or you might feel sick to your stomach. Your mind may race, and your anxiety and worry may increase. These are all signs that you're making a decision based in fear, and those signals are worth investigating. The last thing I want to talk about is the role of outside advisors in your decision-making process. Most of my focus in this class is on helping you make your own decisions. Not because I think outside perspectives aren't helpful and expert opinions aren't necessary sometimes, but because our society has a strong focus on teaching you to follow instructions and do what you're told. The people around us can be great resources for reflection and different ways of thinking, and many people, myself included, think out loud and need to talk things out so they know how they feel, and they need to collaborate to get ideas. So, how do you balance getting input from other people, but also making the decision for yourself? Here are my recommendations on how to know if somebody is worth having in your inner circle to give you advice. Number 1, do they primarily ask you questions that help you find your own answers? Many people are anxious to give you advice. We all love to be the expert or imagine ourselves as the hero. It's also easier to tell people what to do than hold space for them to find their own answers. And when we're focused on someone else's problem, we don't actually have to deal with our own stuff. A lot of this is just human nature, so it's worth making sure that the people you're talking to are mostly asking you questions and not telling you what to do. Second, can they hear possibilities in your ideas and dreams, or do they shut you down right away? Right now, you need people on your side who can help you foster your ideas. Also, do they share your values? Do they support your vision and mission? And do their strengths complement yours? And finally, ask yourself if you really need another perspective or if this is a time you need to be brave and decide for yourself. This week, I encourage you to let yourself dream. Let yourself think about the future you really want and try to say yes to your desires as much as possible. I've included the questions we covered above in a worksheet form to spark ideas for you. One technique that can help if you feel blocked is to imagine a friend asking you the questions, or imagine you're being interviewed and record yourself answering them out loud rather than writing them down. This method can allow you to respond to the questions freely, change your mind, and talk it out until you find an answer. Once you're done answering the questions, you can go back and listen and pull out what resonates most. As usual, I have some mind traps for you. And while I'm only going to give you 3, this week brings up the most objections I see in clients. And it's understandable because this is the week where you're actually making important decisions with long-term impacts. And that is going to trigger your survival brain to assemble an army of reasons why you shouldn't change your career. One mentor I know calls it arguing for your limitations, and I think that's an accurate way to think about it. Change can be hard and scary, and we tend to fight the change even if we want it. We will argue that we can't have the career we want as a last-ditch effort to avoid the discomfort of the unknown. If you're at this point, there is discomfort either way. Staying in a job you hate is uncomfortable, and so is making a decision to go for your dreams. Personally, I hope you choose the discomfort that moves you closer to your dreams. Mind trap number 1 is you have to be an expert to make decisions. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5 rating because there's a kernel of truth in it, but it's not usually what people mean when they say it. The topic of experts is a tough one because I have great respect for people who've dedicated their energy to researching and becoming an expert in their field. My aim here isn't to disparage true experts. When I hear this mind trap, it's often from a person who doesn't want to make a decision and just wants someone else to decide for them. Or they've been convinced that they aren't good decision makers and they no longer trust themselves to make solid decisions for themselves. Both of these scenarios are problematic because when you give away your decision-making ability, you give away your power at the same time. Here's the grain of truth in this myth. You do need to be an expert about a specific topic or field. You need to be the expert about yourself. The better you know yourself, the better quality decisions you tend to make. The hitch is that you're the only person who can be that expert. No one knows who you are and what you want more than you do. I would encourage you to beware of any, quote, expert who says that they know you better than you know yourself. Anyone who is trying to tell you that you can't learn to make good decisions is trying to take your power from you. And that behavior should send up every one of your red flags. Mind trap number 2 is people need to like my decisions. This is one of the hardest myths to overcome because we're hardwired to avoid discomfort and stay connected to our community. It's not uncommon for us to avoid the discomfort of other people's displeasure, especially if they're important figures in our lives, they're particularly vocal or bullying, or if we've been socialized to put everyone's needs before our own. If you don't like your job or career right now, I'm going to guess that this myth has unconsciously factored into your decisions. We all do it from time to time because we think that if we keep the people around us happy, life will be easier. And it might be easier for the moment, but sacrificing who you are and what you want can't bring you satisfaction long term. If the people around you are voicing their displeasure about your choices, ask yourself these questions. First, who are they? Is this some random troll on the internet? Or is this a caring and wise best friend who always wants the best for you? Do you respect their opinion on this matter? Does your decision directly affect them? If this is a person you respect or who is directly affected by your decision, find a time where you can have a calm discussion with them to hear their concerns and see if you can find a solution that works for both of you. If it's just an internet troll or someone whose opinion you don't value, just know that your job on this earth isn't to please everyone. And sometimes we have to disappoint the people around us, even those we love, in order to do what we know is best for us. Building a tolerance for disappointing people can be like building a muscle. In the beginning, it's really painful, but in time, you develop strategies to handle it, and you'll know whose opinion is worth considering and whose isn't. Mind trap number 3 is I need to learn more about how to make decisions. This is a really elegant escape from the discomfort of making a choice because it seems logical, reasoned, and studious, far away from the messy emotions of actual decision-making. The truth is that you can read about decision-making theories for the rest of your life, but none of them will help you until you start making decisions. Learning to decide is like learning to swim. You can only learn so much from a book. At some point, you have to jump in the pool and figure out how your body moves through the water. It takes some trial and error and a lot of practice, and the same is true for making decisions. If you're stuck in the mind trap of wanting to learn more about how to make a decision, I encourage you to start by making small decisions and work your way up. I want you to practice often in real-life situations so you build your skill and your confidence. As we wrap up, remember that making this career decision is how you say yes to yourself. Staying on the fence and wanting to keep your options open isn't actually serving you. It's just giving you the illusion of safety. Everything you want in your career and your life is on the other side of the decisions you are about to make. So let's get you set up for the week with a clear plan of action. This week, I want you to focus on making a decision about the overall plan for your career. I also recommend that you keep reading the morning emails to integrate what you're learning and do at least 1 minute of the breathing exercise every day. As always, you can find all of the research and diagrams that I've mentioned today in the transcript that's available for download anywhere you're listening to this. Next week, we'll walk through some of the most common problems I see people make with their career decisions, as well as some ideas about how to troubleshoot them. As we close, I want to echo something I said in our very first session together. I want you to protect your emerging ideas and dreams right now, because just like a tiny flame, when it's small, it can be blown out really easily. Eventually, your plans and dreams will be strong enough to stand on their own, and you'll be able to handle criticism and feedback. But right now, in the beginning, you need to give that fire oxygen, and that oxygen is support and encouragement. I know not everyone will be able to support you, but that doesn't mean you have bad ideas. Sometimes people stomp on dreams accidentally, and you need to let them know that you're looking for support and not feedback right now. And sometimes people are just in a bad place in life, and you need to avoid the topic with them altogether. If you need someone to help support you, don't hesitate to email me. Helping you fan the flame of your dreams is what I'm here for. I'll talk to you next week.